What a shit day. Do you know what else is shit? Grammar. What is going on, guys? I've come all the way down to Geelong this week to see folks and to hang out with one of my mates, James. So yeah, I'm just gonna make some coffee. Coffee. God, this is what you gotta resort to sometimes, guys. Oh, look at that. Look at that little chocolate sprinkler. That's really lame. Alright, what do you reckon, guys? Is this going to be good or is this going to be really, really horrible? To here, huh? That looks like crap. That looks like absolute crap. You see that, guys? Oh my gosh. What is that? Is that sand? Far out. That is so funny. Oh, it's powdered milk. I get it. Oh, so beautiful. And you mix it in anyway, right? Amazing. Ooh, that's really hot. Really, really hot. That's not bad. Not bad. Nestle instant coffee, guys. What is going on, guys? I am out here, friend's place. This is his backyard, the garage here. What have we got there? House here. And a garden that his parents have really cultivated quite a lot. But I thought I would chat to you today about grammar, okay? And I guess making that push from intermediate to advanced. So, grammar. Why should you stop focusing on grammar? Why should you let go of studying grammar? And what happens when you do? We all know that grammar is kind of important. Obviously, it's really important for obvious reasons in any language. If you want to be clearly understood, you need to have good grammar. I guess the point isn't so much today that I want to say that you shouldn't learn any grammar, but it's how you go about learning it. So for a long time when I was doing French, I was learning grammar out of a book. I would just sit there and do exercises again and again and again, and I wasn't focusing on conversation. I wasn't really using the language as much as I could. And more recently, at least with Portuguese, I've kind of done the complete inverse, the complete opposite, where I've refused to open any grammar books. I'm not looking up any rules at the moment. I'm just focusing on using the language. I'm just speaking. I make so many mistakes. But the interesting thing here is that even though I'm making so many more mistakes, I'm having, I feel, more complicated conversations. I am using the language a hell of a lot more, and I am not feeling as uncomfortable now when using the language, despite, I think, making even more mistakes. So when I was using French all the time, I would be obsessing over being correct. French has, at least for English speakers, relatively difficult grammar. And so I wanted to focus on learning that, and I would always think in my head before speaking, I would always be like, okay, I want to use this structure, I want to say this certain thing, how do I place this sentence together? I would be thinking, I would be sitting there, I would be trying to say the sentence in my head before I would go out and just say it. And it would lead to a lot of anxiety, it would lead to a lot of overthinking, when ultimately that interaction that you're going to have with whoever it is, the native speaker who you're about to say something to, is just not going to care if you get things slightly wrong, if you misplace words, if you conjugate things incorrectly, if you use the wrong noun. Ultimately, what they care about is understanding you, whether you're correct or whether you're incorrect. They just want to communicate, they want to understand what you're trying to say, and they want to have that, I guess, interaction go well. So that's the good thing, the good part, at least for me. I would be very anxious, very nervous when wanting to or having to speak with native speakers in French. I would put myself down. I would think my French was horrible when in reality it wasn't that bad, and I could speak much better French in reality than I would let myself speak, because I was always holding myself back, stuck in my head. So the complete inverse has occurred with Portuguese now, where I am talking with Kel, my fiance, all the time now, and I'm incorrect. Probably almost every single sentence that I say, there is something that's incorrect, whether it's grammar, whether it's pronunciation, whether it's word choice. Something is incorrect, but I'm communicating, and that is the best part about this, right? That's the whole point, that you're learning English. You're not learning English to be correct, you're learning English to communicate, to be able to express your opinions, to be able to understand the opinions of other people, right? And so at the moment, it's really been interesting. For the last week and a half, 2 weeks, I have just been focusing on experiencing content. You gotta be kidding me. It started raining. Alright, I'm gonna have to get under cover. Alright, for the last... For the last few weeks, I've just been focusing on exposing myself to sentences. When I'm training, when I'm actually studying, what I'm doing is I'm listening to real sentences from real native speakers, and I am saying them out loud to work on my pronunciation and also train my brain for those patterns of how these words are constructed in these sentences. So this is what I would suggest. If you want to learn grammar, this is a different approach. This is a more passive approach as opposed to active approach. I'm not actively using a book. I'm not actively systematically going through a book to learn rules and then try and apply them. Instead, I'm just exposing myself to natural language and then trying to use that when I speak. One good example the other day was that I was studying in bed with Kel next to me, and in Portuguese, instead of saying, and I'm trying to remember the example, so instead of saying I usually do something, like I usually go to the shops, I usually have a shower in the morning, I usually eat breakfast in the morning, instead of I usually do something, which is a structure that we use in English all the time, the Portuguese say eu costumo, which is like how would you translate that? I, and then the verb for like accustomed, to do something. It means to do something usually. Anyway, the structure is completely different. So what I did was that I was studying these sentences, and quite a few of these sentences used this structure. Eu costumo andar, so I usually walk. Eu costumo ter café da manhã às 7 horas. I usually have breakfast at 7 o'clock. And I remember this now, after doing this, I was doing these sentences, I finished my sort of study of just reading the sentences out loud, thinking about them, saying them, and then I turned to Kel, my fiance, and this is also what's useful if you have someone who you can speak with, and I said, I'm going to try and use as many examples as possible of eu costumo. Can you correct me and tell me if I'm wrong, or can you ask me more? So that was a really, really good passive way, I feel, of picking up an important part of grammar that I'm going to use too. That's another point. When you do this, you focus on using the language that is important to you and important to your everyday life. You don't need to learn every single rule in English because you're not going to use every single rule in English, at least on a day-to-day basis. You need to passively be able to understand what's happening in English, but you don't necessarily need to know the grammar rules to do that, right? So anyway, that's what I've been doing recently, and it's been so freeing. It's really, really allowed me to stop being so anxious, to stop sorry, there's mosquitoes, get away from me, to stop freaking out, to stop being in my head so much, to stop thinking so much, and it's allowed my language to flow so much more readily when I speak. So now when I speak with Kel, even after only a week and a half, my language, my Portuguese has made leaps and bounds ahead of where it was, just because I've kind of let go. I'm definitely making many, many, many more mistakes than I was, but I'm also using the language a hell of a lot more than I was, and I'm not worrying as much as I was in the past. I'm not in my head freaking out thinking, am I going to be wrong? Am I going to look like an idiot? I no longer care. And this was a really good point too, and something that I wanted to mention. I watched a lecture recently about how polyglots learn languages. So a polyglot is someone who learns many languages, or at least who can speak many languages. So these people tend to learn one language for a year or two, and then they'll switch to another language and another language. And quite often you find out that they speak, 5, 8, 10, sometimes even 20 languages, guys. It's ridiculous. And it's easy for the average person to put them on a pedestal and to think these people are just non-humans who have this special gift for learning languages, but the lecture was showing that in fact isn't the case. These people have a system, which the system quite often differs for at least how they like to get started, but towards the, I guess, intermediate to advanced area of any language that they're learning, quite often they're all similar in that they make as many mistakes as they can, and they don't care about making mistakes, and they speak as often as they can and focus a lot more on communication. Okay, so I've been talking for a bit. It's kind of just been a stream of thought, following my train of thought. I wanted to get this out though, and I wanted to ask you guys, how are you learning grammar right now? And maybe do you think it could be potentially a time or sort of a chance for you to mix things up a bit, to change things and to try something different? So if you are a bit stuck where you're not improving a whole lot, you're feeling like you don't have much confidence when you speak, you're too in your head, maybe this is something that you should focus on. So try maybe and go out, find a native speaker, whether online, whether in person in Australia if you're here, obviously, and just the next time that you have a chance to talk with them, don't focus on grammar. Correct yourself. If you make mistakes and you notice those mistakes getting made, correct yourself. And this makes you look smarter, by the way. Every time I make a mistake at the moment and I notice it, I correct myself, and Kel's always like, wow, you know what's going on. That's really, really good. So speak as much as you can. Use your English. Don't focus on mistakes, aside from maybe counting how many you're making, and the more you make, the better. Give yourself a pat on the back the more mistakes you make. Anyway, let's have a chat in the comments, guys. I want to know how you're learning grammar, how you're learning to improve your English, and what you're doing at the moment, and what you've had success with. And yeah, maybe we can talk a bit about this another time as well. So that's it for today, guys. I'm going to get inside before these mosquitoes eat me alive, and I will chat to you soon. Peace out. Man, look at this. Rain for like all of 10 seconds. Far out.